All right, just to let you know, spoilers in analysis are ahead. So if you have not seen the movie of the year, scroll away now. I'm Antoine Michael, and this is the breakdown, Sinners Edition. Okay, so there will be a few of these, the breakdown Sinners edition, because I have seen the movie quite a few times in the past week. And I am so excited to see another Ryan Coogler project that is on the big screens, that is doing very, very well, that is racking up the numbers. And because of the amazing deal that he was able to land, that is making all the right people upset in Hollywood. Yes, I am here for it. I had the amazing opportunity, actually, of meeting Ryan Coogler very, very briefly in 2018 at the premiere of Black Panther here in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, I don't have footage of it because Disney owns that, and yeah, your boy ain't quite got that money for a copyright lawsuit from Disney. So yeah, there's just that. But I'm so excited to see another project from Ryan. And Ryan, if you see this by chance, hit me up. I love to do maybe a 30-minute, 45-minute to an hour interview with you concerning contemporary context and historical continuity around the film. I know you've done a lot concerning Sinners, but I love to do a deep, in-depth dive with you. So y'all tag him below and let's see what happens. They say you have not because you ask not. So we gonna ask and let's see what shakes out. So there is that. Also in the past week, I have been on the podcast Conversations with Ronnie Keith, along with Rock Butler. I will tag the podcast below where we are discussing different perspectives as well as points of analysis with the film Sinners. So there is that. And if you haven't seen it, please make sure you go out and see it. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Too many of us are like cornbread. Let's go ahead and just go there, right? Cornbread's character is very, very important in the analysis that he allows for and the point that he makes for in this film. Ryan Coogler and his team, including the storyline of Cornbread, is just there, right? Because too many of us, well, first of all, before I even go there, right? Let's back it up. So Cornbread is, first of all, found working in the cotton fields as a sharecropper, right? Smoking stack, put him in on the juke joint and say, hey, we're trying to build our own business. We're trying to do something for the community. We're trying to build this up, and we trust you to be on the door and to be a protector of the community. And at some particular point in time, Cornbread decides, hey, I need to use the bathroom. So Cornbread, instead of going behind a vehicle or at some place that is on the side of the building, Cornbread goes deep into the woods and starts to hear his name called out within the woods. I'm going to leave that there, right? If you know, you know. But nonetheless, Cornbread goes deep into the woods without protection. By the time Cornbread comes back, Cornbread has been impacted by the vampires because he was somewhere where he was not supposed to be. And by way of being somewhere where he was not supposed to be without protection, he ended up being subjugated to the bite of vampires, i.e. whiteness. And then somewhere in the film, what takes place is there is a gentleman who's inside the juke joint who they believe to be unalived and potentially impacted by the vampires, right? So, Smoke is in there with Annie and others. They're like, move him outside now, just in case. But as it turns out, the particular gentleman, I can't remember the character's name, has actually not been impacted by vampires as of yet. So what we see in the scene is we do see a bunch of black folk, right, who are dancing a jig to this Irish music, right, that has been expanded to accept and soak up whiteness. We'll get into that in another episode, right? But among those persons is Cornbread, who was supposed to be, the protector of the community, has now been impacted, and he's dancing a jig to the banjo for Irish white music. What eventually happens is that Smoke and others open the door as this gentleman is banging on the door of the juke joint to say, hey, let me in. There's some weird stuff going on out here. And by the time they open the door, Cornbread has jumped on this brother, bit him, and has forced him into whiteness. And I really do think that is a message for Black America, right? This particular, breakdown is for us Black folks, right? If you stick around, you stick around. But one thing that we have to be very real about is some of us are managers, some of us are supervisors, some of us are responsible for overseeing students, etc. And what we have to be cognizant of, what the storyline of Cornbread reminds us of, is to be cognizant of the ways in which we superimpose and force white supremacy, standards of professionalization, the curriculum into the lives of Black students, Black workers, right? And Black vendors that we happen to support. That if it does not look like the larger dominant narrative, then we force you into it. And if you aren't willing to go into it, then we are willing to unalive you, so to speak, socially, economically, or whatever other means, just to make sure that we are fitting in with the norm, just because you may not necessarily want to fit in the norm and you did not want to go. Be careful of the cornbreads in the community. That's what Cornbread's character was all about. And we have to be aware of the cornbreads among us, because it be your own people that will throw you under a bus. It be your own people that will throw you in front of the train for the sake of the promotion, for the sake of the contract, while not seeing that they themselves have been negatively impacted, and that by the time the sun comes out, and that the things that are the things which come to be exposed comes to impact them, and now they are no longer here. You have to be careful when you're willing to dance the jig to white supremacy, when you're willing to force and subjugate yourself to standards of professionalization in terms of this is how we do it. And you are delivering the stab to somebody's back who looks like you instead of giving them the heads up. I am so thankful that at one point in my career, before I went into academia, I had a boss, and I won't name them, but they do follow me here. And that boss pulled me aside, and I'm so thankful that they were not like Cornbread. That boss pulled me aside and said, listen, layoffs are coming. What are you going to do? Put a plan together. And my boss made sure that I was okay. And when the hammer fell, I was in a safe place. I was not Cornbread. And that is the message in part, because there's a lot to this. And keep in mind, there's going to be other episodes, right, of the breakdown that deals with that deals with sinners. But there are too many of us that are willing to sell one another out in the name of fitting in, just so that you can dance a jig. I don't care how much money you make, you will never fit in. I don't care how many Kentucky Derbies you go to, you will never fit in. It is what it is. It is your own people that will sell you out. Cornbread's narrative is so very important, because Cornbread represents someone who got it up out of the field, out of the dirt, that was side by side with us. But when he was extended, if we can call it that, well, let's put it this way. When he was impacted by the bite, when he was impacted by white supremacy, and he came to be privileged by way of being among and being able to dance a jig, he was willing to bite another Black person, to force them into it, because the brother was trying to escape. But Cornbread forced him into subjugation. In other words, the decisions that you make every day at the workplace, how you interact with other Black people matters. How we see one another matters. How we engage one another matters. And that we need to stand strong in who we are, where we come from, and what we know to be true, so that we aren't superimposing the standards of another people among ourselves. Y'all go see this film. It's quite amazing. And pay attention to that storyline of Cornbread. Cornbread got something to teach the masses. And that's just a little bit of what you can take away from Cornbread. I'll see y'all on the next episode of The Breakdown, where I talk about sinners a little bit more. But that's just this for now. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.